morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us here on Inside NASCAR. We're at Hendrick Motorsports near Charlotte, North Carolina, and we're in the shops of the number 24 DuPont Chevrolets, which are driven by Jeff Gordon in the NASCAR Winston Cup Series. Of course, Jeff and all the other NASCAR Winston Cup drivers and teams are at the New Hampshire International Speedway for the running of the Jiffy Lube 300 this afternoon, a race you can see live right here on TNN. The NASCAR Busch Series was scheduled last night at Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series were at Louisville, Kentucky yesterday afternoon. Phil Wurz is in our studios in Charlotte, North Carolina. He'll take a look back at those events and preview today's race. Good morning, Phil.
Thanks, and good morning, Ned, and good morning, racing fans. As Ned said, we'll have plenty to catch you up on this morning with all of NASCAR's top racing divisions in action this weekend. Don't forget, today's Jiffy Lube 300 from Loudon, New Hampshire gets underway right here on TNN starting at 1 Eastern Time. Ken Schrader and the Skoll Chevy will roll from the pole. We'll recap Elliott Sadler and Ron Hornaday's wins from Saturday in a moment. But first, here's what's coming your way in this one-hour edition of Inside NASCAR. For months, the rumor mill has been spinning over Ernie Irvin's future with Robert Yates Racing. And this week, the speculation was answered. Irvin will not be back with the 28 team in 1998. We'll sit down with the pilot of the Texaco Haviland Ford to find out what happened. There's no question that Winston Cup racing is a big money sport, but the purses at some tracks have been slow to keep up. We'll have part one of our series on NASCAR purses and where the money goes. And we'll also find out what happened to the guy whose claim to fame is one of the most memorable flights in all of Winston Cup racing. Those stories and more coming up on Inside NASCAR.
Inside NASCAR is brought to you by Milwaukee's Best. When you're looking for a different breed of beer, unleash the beast. Milwaukee's Best.
Hi, and welcome back to Inside NASCAR. The second half of the NASCAR Winston Cup season kicks off this afternoon in New England. Kenny Schrader will be on the pole in his number 33 Skoll Monte Carlo for the Jiffy Lube 300. You know, our Tyler Potter had time for lobster, of course, in New Hampshire, but he also had time to bring us up to date on qualifying and a preview of today's race. Good morning, Tyler.
Thanks a lot, Phil. The second half of the Winston Cup season gets underway later today here at the Magic Mile in New Hampshire. We'll talk with pole sitter Ken Schrader in just a bit, but first let's get you caught up on the news. This time last year, Ernie Irvin was making headlines for winning the Jiffy Lube 300. 1 year later, he's still in the news after owner Robert Yates announced he will not be back in '98.
I feel like a big load is lifted as far as, making that decision. Certainly, I'm sure I'll load my shoulders up with more than I can probably do for the future, but I haven't made any decisions. I've now begun a little bit. I've talked to a guy on the telephone actually now. I just didn't feel like I wanted to be out trying to line up something before, I could tell Ernie that. I felt like I would be cheating on him.
It's been a month to forget for Geoff Bodine. After 2 straight blown engines and a DNQ at last week's Pepsi 400, Bodine was ready for some good news, especially considering his ongoing financial troubles with the QVC team. Now it appears all that is behind him. He says expect an announcement soon.
We're in the middle of restructuring the team, and I hope, I'm sure before Indy we'll be able to make some kind of announcement. Right now we can't. We're still in the middle of everything.
2 weeks after releasing Mike Wallace as driver of the Spam Chevrolet, the 91 team was a no-show in Loudon. They are expected to run at Pocono next week. Rumor has it Greg Sachs will be in the car driving. Bobby Hamilton established the early mark in Friday's qualifying. His time of 29.44 seconds was just 1/1000th of a second off the track record. Hamilton, who was fastest in Friday's afternoon practice session, knocked Jeff Burton from the top spot. Burton had replaced Joe Nemechek a lap earlier. It's been a disappointing season in many ways for Chad Little, but Friday the John Deere Pontiac was 4th fastest. It tied the best qualifying effort of Little's Winston Cup career.
It's a good reward for, all the hard work that goes into everything. And although it's a small reward, it's just one race of several, but it's, it makes you think that the program's in the right direction, that what we're working on is working, and it makes everyone feel good. Momentum's an important thing in racing, and this is it's a big mental sport, especially on drivers and the crew members, and it's real rewarding. A small reward, but nonetheless important.
And you can't talk about New Hampshire without talking about local favorite Ricky Craven. The Newburgh, Maine native failed to defend his pole of a year ago, but did come across in third with a speed of 129.274 miles per hour. Craven's teammate Jeff Gordon didn't fare as well. He was 29th in round one and decided to stand on his time. Dale Earnhardt also stood on his time and will start 26th. This day belonged to Ken Schrader. He was the 22nd car out, and his lap of 29.429 seconds stood up as he becomes the 12th different Busch pole winner in '97. All right, Ken Schrader now joins us. And Ken, first of all, congratulations on getting the pole. It's your first pole since Pocono in '95. You also established a new track record. Did you realize you were that fast?
Well, the car was real fast in both the practice sessions. One of them we was the quickest. The other one we were second quickest, and we knew that we had a shot at it, but knew there was going to be some other cars that were going to be real tough.
You were fastest in Friday's morning practice. You were second fastest in the afternoon, so you guys have just been quick ever since you got here.
Well, the thing was real good all day Friday, and we was happy with it in practice Saturday, so we're just looking forward to see what happens here in a little bit.
Well, good luck. We wish you well this afternoon in the race. And now let's take a look at the rest of the top 10 as well as the starting grid for this afternoon's Jiffy Lube 300. Bobby Hamilton's Pontiac is on the outside of row one. It's one of 4 Pontiacs starting in the first 5 rows. The Chevy of Ricky Craven and the Pontiac of Chad Little hold down row 2, while Dale Jarrett and Steve Grissom occupy row 3. It's Jarrett's 15th top 10 qualifying effort of '97. Kyle Petty starts on the inside of row 4, while Pepsi 400 winner John Andretti rolls off from the outside in the 8th position. Jerry Nadeau and Terry Labonte round out the top 10.
Thanks, Tyler. Meanwhile, the NASCAR Busch Series ran last night at Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. In July along the Grand Strand can be pretty hot, and water always the best way to beat the heat. The same can also be said for the newly resurfaced track at the Myrtle Beach Speedway. Here to explain that story and show us how Elliott Sadler picked up his second Busch win of the season is Stephanie Boyd-Durner.
Well, Phil, the Myrtle Beach Speedway was repaved over the winter, but the combination of the hot July temperatures and the radial tires of the Busch cars have been threatening to tear up this surface during daytime practice. In fact, Saturday afternoon's practice was canceled after only 12 minutes, so they could put down some water, try and cool the track down, and save it for Saturday night's Advanced Auto Parts 250. Elliott Sadler led the 35-car field to the green and pulled ahead to lead the first 48 laps. But as he tried to make his way through traffic, the Phillips 66 driver got into the lapped car of Jim Sauter, who was filling in for Dick Trickle, collecting second-place Tim Fedewa in the process. Sadler had to head to the pits for repairs, costing him valuable track position. But Fedewa stayed on the track despite considerable front-end damage. The Kleenex driver wasted no time working his way back up front, and by the time the next 50 laps were through, he was able to get by Nathan Butke and Jeff Purvis to take the lead. On the second caution, Sadler took on fuel only to get back out front, but his strategy failed as his older tires quickly gave way to the newer ones of Mike McLaughlin, Fedewa, and points leaders Todd Bodine and Randy LaJoie, who battled together all night. The next caution, and Sadler was back in for tires and back again to the second half of the field. That is, until there was caution again, the leaders pitted, and Sadler was one of several cars that stayed out. Another one was Matt Kenseth, who then became the new leader. But with less than 50 laps to go, Sadler retook the lead for the final time. And even though he pulled away in the closing laps, a caution with only 2 to go ensured his second win of the season, both of them from the pole.
We had a mess up there at the beginning of the race and got a flat spotted tire, but they did come down to pit strategy, and we knew we were going to give up a little bit if we pitted early, but that's the only way. It's so hard to pass it tonight, so we figured that was the only way we were going to get us some track position, and then we didn't need any cautions, we didn't get any, so we were able to get that Phillips 66 car in victory lane, and that's what we want to do is show those guys support back for helping us so much, and Chevrolet also, so hey, it's another good win. We feel like we're on a roll. We got second last week and win this week, and I think we'll be good when we go to St. Louis, too.
Mike McLaughlin won the battle for second, while LaJoie finished just ahead of Bodine to pick up an additional 5 points in the championship race.
Thanks, Stephanie. You know, if you see someone riding a brand new Harley-Davidson up in Emporia, Virginia this week, it's probably Elliott Sadler. You see, Sadler is in hog heaven after his win at Myrtle Beach last night. Team owner Gary Bechtel promised Sadler a Harley if he won from the pole. Sadler did and said after the race, he's ready to go shopping. From From hogs to trucks now as the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series spends Saturday afternoon in Louisville, Kentucky. Ron Hornaday may have had a slow start to the 97 season, but the series defending champion is proving now that he's very much back in contention for another title. Jimmy Hensley was on the pole for the Link Belt Construction Equipment 225, but it didn't take long for a red-hot Ron Hornaday to take the lead early on. There were several cautions in this race, though, 13 to be exact, producing a near record 66 caution laps. Rich Bickle in the diehard truck finished 5th in this race, but he did manage to maintain his points lead, good enough for $10,000 for leading the points halfway through the season. Bickle may own the points lead, but look out for Ron Hornaday and the Napa Chevy. At the end of the race, Hornaday had to overcome Mike Bliss in a lap truck. That allowed Joe Ruttman to close on the Napa Chevy. But Hornaday held off Ruttman to win his 3rd Craftsman Truck Series race in the last 4 events. The win enabled Hornaday to move from 7th to 4th in the point standings.
A heck of a truck together. This is our oldest truck. We're not going to paint her again. We're going to beat the dents out and run her again. But Action Collectibles are #1 to me.
Right now, you're all caught up. And when Inside NASCAR continues, Ned rejoins us from the racing shop of Winston Cup points leader Jeff Gordon. Don't forget the Jiffy Lube 300 today at 1 o'clock on TNN. Have a great Sunday.
We're at Hendrick Motorsports near Charlotte, North Carolina, in the number 24 DuPont Chevrolet shops, which are driven, of course, by Jeff Gordon in the NASCAR Winston Cup Series. Jeff Gordon has certainly won a lion's share of the purses in NASCAR this year, and really ever since he came into NASCAR Winston Cup racing. Every decal on this car represents money that some manufacturer has put up if they use their products. And, of course, there are monies that comes from various sources. And it gets very confusing. Who gets what? There's a lot of money there at stake. Tyler Potter takes a look at how it's all divided up.
Tell me the money.
NASCAR is the fastest growing sport in America. In the last 4 years alone, Winston Cup purses have gone up some $20 million. In 1997, a total of $30,638,312 has been won. But it's the distribution of the money that has NASCAR concerned.
It is a concern of ours. You know, if you have say for example, a $1.5 million purse, and you know, a large majority of it goes to the top 5, and the last 5 spots don't cover a tire bill, that's a concern of ours. We want the winner to get his fair share of the money, but we'd like it to be somewhat evenly distributed throughout the lineup.
The money the drivers make from driving comes from 2 sources: their salary from the owner and the purse money. In some cases, their purse percentage might be low if their salary is high, or vice versa. Some guys get purse money but no salary, while others are salary only. But where does the money go after a driver wins a race? We posed that question to a number of teams.
You know, it varies from team to team in the Winston Cup garage based on whatever that relationship is between the team and the car owner. In most cases, there is usually a split somewhat between the driver and the car owner, and that's true in our case too. That split can vary based on whether you have a huge salary or a guarantee, or whether you're a performance-driven type driver that's looking to maximize their winning opportunity.
Would it be a 50-50 then?
Somewhere along those lines, yeah.
A very important element of incentive compensation in our organization that the driver and the crew members share substantially in the purse awards that are paid. In our team's case, approximately 65% of all the purse money goes into a pool for the drivers, crew chiefs, and all the crew members. Both the crew members who are here at the racetrack, as well as the important crew members who are back in the shop building the cars as we're preparing to race. And then of that 65%, of course, the driver has the largest percentage as part of his compensation.
Top drivers and owners would be like a half-half split, putting some in a pot for the team, and then I'd say that drops all the way back down to some drivers just getting the salary.
You put Bobby in that top class of drivers as well?
Bobby's in the top class. There's no question about it. We think he is, and our deal with Bobby is more like a partnership. You know, we actually share in almost everything that all the income that comes to our race team, really, we kind of share, Bobby and ourselves, and in some cases, sponsors do too.
You know, we win, we divide it, split it right half in two. We do that on where it's souvenirs or whatever. So it's a driver and then the team kind of thing. And sometimes we include the sponsor in that also. But just from the racetrack purses, it's just they get 50% of it.
Well, I guess it is a little different experience. There is no cutting the money with the driver. It all goes into one big checking account. The downside of it, got a lot more bills to pay as an owner-driver. So, you know, the normal driver-owner cut will be something like 40, 50%. So in our situation, 100% of it goes into Kitty, but we got to pay the 100% of the bills, too.
All right, so we know the percentages, but how much are these guys really raking in? The purse money from Gordon's 7 wins alone totals $1,188,970. If you add the rest of his 97 earnings and divide it by 50%, he's made roughly $980,000. How about the rest of our guys? Roush, if you remember, gives 65% to the driver and crew, with the driver getting the largest percentage of the 65. So if the standard holds true and Martin, Burton, and Musgrave get 50% of that 65, then their up-to-date winnings are $462,082, $510,407, and $305,507 respectively. But if you say their cut was only 40 of that 65%, they would have won $369,666, $408,326, and $244,406 respectively. Both Gibbs and Yates give their drivers 50%. So based on that, Bobby Labonte has pocketed roughly $470,815, while teammates Irvin and Jarrett have made $383,167 and $640,475 respectively. As for Rudd, he's a little bit harder to figure out, being a driver and owner, so your guess is as good as mine. Keep in mind, these are approximate race earnings. The numbers are mind-boggling, and they don't even reflect the driver's salaries or endorsements. Just imagine what NASCAR stars are really worth.
This is Jeff Hammond, crew chief of the Parts America Chevrolet. At the beginning of the '97 season, Winston Cup officials allowed the NASCAR competitors to go and use what we call a cold air box. A cold air box is the ability to force cold air into the carburetor, which allows the engine to get better performance. Not to be outdone, the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series came up with what they call their version of a cold air box is, which remarkably resembles what is used on a passenger car today. Air is forced in through the grill area, up through a ducting system, hoses right into a sealed air cleaner. There they have what they call their version of the cold air box for the trucks.
Ernie Irvin's career with Robert Yates Racing has seen the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. It started when he replaced Davey Allison in the 28 after Allison's death in 1993, going on to give Yates 2 more victories that year. It continued through Irvin's near-fatal accident, a miraculous recovery, and then 3 more wins, including one at the track that almost claimed his life. Despite it all, though, rumors have persisted this season about Irvin's future with the team, and he spent much of his time trying to put them to rest.
I've really treasured the moments that we've had. We've had some ups and downs, obviously, with my accident. And, you know, this team was awful loyal to me, and I feel really loyal to them. And, you know, it's a great race team, and, you know, I hope to be here for a lot of years.
But early this week, Irvin found out he won't be. He received a call from team owner Robert Yates that his contract would not be renewed when it expires at the end of this season.
You know, Robert has made a decision that he thinks he needs to do something different, and you know, it's really good to know ahead of time instead of at the end of my contract, which would be in January. So you know, I feel very fortunate that, you know, we're going to finish out the year. They've promised me they're going to give me great race cars, and I think they will. And I'm going to do the best job I can to win races, and I think that's good for both of us. And you know, I'm sure that some things will come up.
In the days after the news broke, Yates declined to do interviews, instead issuing a statement saying his decision had been a long and tough one and too difficult to make others understand. For his part, Irvin says he had a great relationship with not only Yates, but also with everyone who worked for him.
I look at it, and I mean, a lot of people say, well, maybe it was a two-car deal that, did it and all that time. I'm like, man, I don't think so. I mean, I think that Dale Jarrett has been one of Ernie Irvin's biggest supporters, and that's been really good. We had a really good relationship. Todd Parrott's been really good. He's brought a lot to Robert Yates Racing, and the add-on of Mark Reno has been all positive. So everything that's happened there has been really good, and again, I think that Robert just felt like he needed to make some sort of change, and that's fine. We'll just go on, and I'm sure that I'll be racing against the 28 car next year, and hopefully I'll beat it some.
Just who will be driving that car is the new source of speculation, with rumors circulating around Sterling Marlin, Johnny Benson, and especially truck rookie Kenny Irwin. As for Irvin, the rumors have him with anyone from Dr. J and the new Washington Irving race team to going back to Morgan McClure.
This has all just unfolded in the last day or so. So, now there's people know that I am available. A lot of what happens is your reputation. If you're a good driver and you win races, I think that's what this sport's all about. I feel like that I've done that, and I feel like I'm a good sell for a sponsor and things. But right now, we're going to concentrate. For the last couple of days, we're concentrating on figuring out what Ernie Irvin's going to do in the future. When it gets to Loudon, then we're going to concentrate on winning that race.
That would certainly help his case in landing a new ride, but no matter where he ends up, one thing is for sure. Ernie Irvin is a proven survivor and a guy who can weather any storm.
Well, we'll be back with a story on Jimmy Horton. Where's he? And lots more right after this.
And I kept trying to jump back and forth, and it wasn't really the way to go. And active was going to be a full-fledged deal, and just the bottom dropped out of that deal. And, I kind of just came back here and started racing again.
I think a lot of guys were apprehensive when they talked about lighting up Charlotte Motor Speedway, figured the speeds would be too fast to have a dimly lit racetrack. As it turns out, they did an excellent job with it. It wasn't a concern at all. Lighting up Daytona, we'll just have to wait and see. If they lit up Charlotte, straightaway speeds there are probably quicker than they are at Daytona. Probably will work and hopefully get away from some of this heat that we've got here now.
I hope that that they couldn't do that. As far as being under the lights, I think that'd be really good for the fans. But the biggest part is the race fans can sit up there in the heat of the night instead of the heat of the afternoon.
Everybody here suffers during the summer anyway because of the heat and stuff, and that's going to really, really make it great. And I just never, thought about 2.5 miles lit, but it'll be great. It'll be great for the spectators, it'll be great for the racers and the crews and everything. So from a racing standpoint, I think it'll be a lot bigger show than what it is on during the day.
This is one of Jeff Gordon's short track cars, and he's had a lot of success on the short tracks in NASCAR Winston Cup racing. Another driver has had a lot of success on short tracks, not in NASCAR Winston Cup racing, but on the dirt tracks. Jimmy Horton. A few years ago, he seemed destined to become a NASCAR Winston Cup driver on a full-time basis, but it didn't work out. He ran off and on for several years, but never in a top-notch ride to show what he really could do. Well, what's he doing now? We haven't seen much of him around recently. Stephanie Boyd-Durner caught up with him to find out.
For nearly a decade, Jimmy Horton tried to get his big break in Winston Cup racing. From 1987 through 1995, Horton made 48 starts in NASCAR's Premier Division, a couple of them with one of the top owners in the sport. In 1990, he was the replacement driver for Darrell Waltrip at Hendrick Motorsports, filling in for 2 races after Waltrip broke his leg during a practice crash at Daytona. But despite that prime opportunity and an impressive resume in the ARCA series, perhaps Horton's biggest claim to fame is getting airborne at Talladega in 1993. His car wound up demolished after landing in the parking lot, and while Horton was okay, he says that moment is likely to follow him forever.
It was on national TV, you know, it's one of them deals where a lot of the ARCA races weren't, or the tape delayed. You know, people up here will remember, yeah, he won a lot of ARCA races and stuff, and he won, you know, the 5 consecutive ones, but they all do want to know what it felt like to flip over the wall at Talladega. You know, it was just a bad roller coaster ride in my book, but, you know, and in Atlanta we got busted up pretty good, and, you know, it's a shame that you'll be remembered for your wrecks, but that goes through the history of racing. You know, everybody does that.
After the '93 season, Horton only ran a couple of more Winston Cup races. He soon returned to his dirt track roots, leaving his NASCAR career behind.
We went Busch Grand National Racing in '85, and then we just get snowballing from there, you know. Then we got the Cup cars, and we run some Cup races, and then I went with Active. And then I kept trying to jump back and forth, and it wasn't really the way to go. And then, you know, Active was going to be a full-fledged deal, and just the bottom dropped out of that deal. And, you know, I kind of just came back here and started racing again.
Horton is currently a dirt modified regular, running the Skoll Racing Super Dirt Series and his home track at Bridgeport, New Jersey. He's a 2-time Super Dirt Week winner and the all-time feature winner at Bridgeport Speedway. Even with all those accolades, though, Horton says he'd move back south for the right opportunity, whether it's in Cup, Busch, or the Craftsman Truck Series.
You're always itching, you know. I guess, I don't know if I got smarter or what, you know. I want a good deal, you know. It's a good sound deal so we can show really what I got, you know. It's not that you can go down there and one-shot deal, you can prove anything. You know, it's just too many good racers. There's too much that can go wrong. You know, you got to get established. You got to get a team working together. You got to get a driver, crew chief working together. You got to get the crews working with the crew chief. You know, so it's hard to just go down there and, you know, do a one-shot deal.
So the question is he pursuing a NASCAR ride or not?
I'm probably not doing it as hard as I should be because, you know, this year I concentrated on building a whole new dirt team from the ground up. And, you know, I wanted to see if I could do it again. And, you know, I probably, if I would be on that phone begging and, you know, wanting to ride and taking rides here and there, you know, yeah, it would come about. But I don't know if it would come about the right way. You know, and I should probably do it harder and harder, but, you know, I love racing. I feel, and I guess it's the wrong way, I feel my talent is good enough that I shouldn't have to, you know, beg somebody for a race and for a ride. You know, they should be able to go back and see what I've done and give me that shot to do it. And if I don't, you know, having fun what I'm doing, maybe it's their loss.
I personally have always been impressed with Jimmy Horton. I think he has a tremendous amount of talent. Maybe a big break will come for him one day. Well, we need to take a short break right now. When we come back, we'll do the mailbox. And we also have a story on the first half of the 1997 NASCAR Winston Cup season, so you stay with us. The Inside NASCAR mailbox is brought to you by Miller Lite. Our question today is from Charles Mertz from Hampton, Virginia. Please clarify what can be changed on the race car between qualifying and the race, and also once the race has started.
Hi, I'm Tony Glover, crew chief of the Bell South Chevrolet. In between Friday's qualifying and Sunday's race, many things can be changed on a race car. We have a special qualifying engine. We have a better, more sleeker aerodynamic package. We have different springs and shocks. Basically, the car you see on Friday is a totally different car, setup-wise and engine-wise, than Sunday's car. Once the race starts on Sunday, there are many adjustments we can make during the race. We can adjust air pressure. We can raise and lower the rear track bar, and also we can change the wedge, and we can do a lot of things to correct our handling problems on Sunday.
If you have a question for the Inside NASCAR mailbox, write to us at Inside NASCAR. Post Office Box 240417, Charlotte, North Carolina 28224. If we use your question on the air, you'll receive this embroidered Miller Lite jacket and a cap and shirt from Chase Authentic, the authentic trackside apparel of NASCAR.
These DuPont Chevrolets, driven by Jeff Gordon, dominated the first half of the 1997 NASCAR Winston Cup season, and we'll recap it when we come back right after this break.
Terry Labonte, my teammate's going to be very tough. Mark Martin has come on really, really strong, and you can't throw Dale Jarrett out of it. I mean, he's going to be really strong. So, and there might be some guys even further back than that, like Jeff Burton or something. So you can't pick one. There's no way. I mean, I'm just hoping that we're in contention and that we're there when it counts.
Certainly an appropriate sign for Jeff Gordon, crew chief Ray Evernham, and all the Rainbow Warrior crew here at the Hendrick Motorsports number 24 shop. They won 7 of the 16 races that were run in the first half of the 1997 season, and of course they lead the point standings going into the second half, which starts this weekend at the New Hampshire International Speedway in the Jiffy Lube 300. Bill Wurz takes a look back at the first half of the 1997 season.
John Andretti may have won the last race of the first half, but it's Jeff Gordon who wins the $50,000 Gatorade Front Runner Award for being the points leader as we head to Loudon and the second half of the Winston Cup season. The biggest story of the first half is obviously Jeff Gordon. The pilot of the DuPont Refinishes Chevrolet won 7 of the 16 races run in the first half of the season. His 7 wins are the only wins collected by a Chevy driver so far this season. He carries a 54-point lead over teammate Terry Labonte to New Hampshire to kick off the second half. Gordon admits that doing much better in that second half will be hard to do.
It'd be hard for me not to say we scored a 10 in the first half. I mean, sure, you know, we always want to improve and always look at certain things, and, you know, the blown engine in Atlanta certainly hurt us. You know, the 2 mistakes or crashes on the racetrack, Texas and Dover, certainly have hurt us. So other than that, I would definitely score it a 10.
Mr. Consistency, Terry Labonte, led the way during the first half with 13 top 10 finishes, but those numbers include no victories. He entered the second half second in the points chase. Meanwhile, Mark Martin started the second half third in points. His streak of 10 straight top 10s was snapped during the Pepsi 400 in that last lap multi-car crash. His 2 wins ties Dale Jarrett for second highest total in that category at the halfway point. As for the second half,
well, we hope we can keep this thing going. You know, we've had we've had a couple of problems, you know, here in the first half, but for the most part, it's been a real good, successful first half. So we hope we keep that going.
Dale Jarrett is still in the hunt. 11 first-half top 10s and 2 wins is keeping DJ in contention for his first ever Winston Cup title. Jeff Burton celebrated his first Winston Cup win in the inaugural race at Texas. 7 top 5s and 10 top 10s have the driver of the Exide Ford fairly pleased with the first half effort.
I'd say we'd have to rate it about a 7.5 or an 8. We're real pleased with the way we performed. We're real pleased with our pit stops and with the performance of the car as far as how fast it's been. We're disappointed that we've had 3 problems. We've had 3 races where we've had mechanical problems in, and they've hurt us quite a bit.
Ricky Runn is the only driver to pick up a win among the drivers occupying positions 6 through 10 in the points. His win at Dover marked the 15th straight year he's won at least 1 race. Bobby Labonte recorded 10 top 10s and 4 top 5s in the first half, and if it wasn't for some bad luck at Dover, Pocono, and Bristol, Labonte would be among the top 5. The biggest movers and shakers the last 6 weeks of the first half were Jeremy Mayfield and Ted Musgrave. Both were 21st in points before the Coca-Cola 600. They left Daytona 9th and 10th, respectively.
We just continue to run like we've been running and get a little bit better. You know, we know that time's coming. We're not going to press and then try to push any faster than what it's going. We're going to take our time and keep building our program like it is, and we think by the end of the year we'll be in good shape.
Just when everybody thought, you know, hey, that Family Channel Prankstar car's not running very well, ha, 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 you know, look again. We are running good. We just didn't have the brakes that we needed, and we're getting there now. Like I say, our inventory of the cars, what car we're taking each racetrack, you know, is looked at heavily, you know, so we don't produce a bad car at the racetrack. And little things like that is what we're looking at, and it's turned out to be a good deal.
As for the Rookie of the Year battle, Mike Skinner has the upper hand after the first half. He leads David Green, Robbie Gordon, and Jeff Reed. but Skinner knows the battle for the rookie title is far from over.
We still like to try to win the Rookie of the Year deal. We've got a new contender in this thing, Jeff Green, that's been really burning it up, running really good. David and Robbie still aren't out of this thing. It's going to be probably the best rookie race they've had in years and years.
And there were several driver changes during the first half of the season, and silly season isn't quite in full swing yet. Stay tuned. More news, more answers, and plenty of action is expected as the Winston Cup Series motors into the second half of the season.
It was July 11th, 1993, when the Winston Cup Series ran its first race at the New Hampshire International Speedway in Loudon. This very first Jiffy Lube 300 came down to a battle between Rusty Wallace, Mark Martin, and Davey Allison. With just a few laps left, Allison and Martin raced hard for runner-up, while out front, Wallace held on for the inaugural victory. Martin was able to hold off Allison for second.
Well, the key to the whole deal was that we wanted to stay out. You know, you never know what's going to happen in that Latney race, and we weren't scheduled to come in that early. Davey elected to come in early for tires. It got me a little nervous because when he came in early for tires, and then I came in like 6 or 8 laps later, he had a lot fresher tires, and he pulled a lot of distance on me. So I was concerned about that, and it looked like I was going to finish second. And when that caution came out, I told Buddy, I said, man, it's just what we needed.
It was an exciting day for Rusty Wallace winning the first race at Loudon, but it was a tragic week which followed when Davey Allison, who finished third at New Hampshire, died as the result of a helicopter crash at Talladega. In his first year as a driver-owner, Ricky Rudd held off a charging Dale Earnhardt to take his first win of 1994 and the 15th of his career. In 1995, Jeff Gordon took the win. Second was Morgan Shepherd, with Mark Martin, Terry Labonte, and defending race winner Ricky Rudd fifth. And it was at Loudon last year when Ernie Irvan went back to victory lane, punctuating his return to racing after a near-fatal crash at Michigan. To say the least, it was an emotional victory lane for Ernie, wife Kim, and everyone at Robert Yates Racing.
I tell you, I did like Larry wanted to oppose victory lap, and that's in honor of Alan Quickie and Davey Allison. And, you know, it's great what we've been able to do, and it's not just me, it's the whole race team. We struggled at the beginning of the year. Some my fault, some theirs. It's just part of it, you know. And it's amazing that we made it back to victory lane. And, you know, Daytona was great, but this is where it's all about, the Winston Cup. I got to say hi to Kim, my wife, and Jordan, because they're not here.
In 4 races at Loudon, there have been 4 different winners. Another chapter will be written this weekend as all the action unfolds right here on TNN.
Next weekend, the NASCAR Winston Cup drivers and teams travel back to the Pocono International Raceway for a 500-mile race, and the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series will be in Erie, Colorado for a race on a short track there. Well, let's take a look at what we have for you right here on the Inside NASCAR on TNN next week.
For the past several weeks, the battle for the NASCAR Busch Series points lead has been teetering back and forth between Randy LaJoie and Todd Bodine. We'll catch up with both drivers, plus take a look at other contenders for the crown. We'll also take a look at the difference between the money to be won in the Busch circuit versus the Craftsman Truck Series as we wrap up our 2-parter on the NASCAR purses. Those stories and much more next week on Inside NASCAR.
Night racing is becoming popular in NASCAR Winston Cup. It was announced last week that the Pepsi 400 will be run under the lights in 1998 at the Daytona International Speedway. They're going to light that place. That'll be a mammoth undertaking to light a 2.5-mile track. The Musco Lighting Company will handle that chore, and Joe Crookham, an official of the Musco Lighting Company, talks about what is involved in this week's Inside NASCAR Profile.
There's nothing like racing under the lights. It adds a certain flair and electricity that daytime racing can't seem to match. For 4 decades, races at the Daytona International Speedway have always been run during the day, but that will change. Track officials say numerous calls and letters from the fans have been asking for a night race at Daytona, and those requests have been heard. On July 3rd, track officials announced that lights will go up at Daytona, Construction is set to begin soon, with completion expected by springtime. Musco Lighting has been chosen to do the job. Joe Crookham is the president of Musco, the same company that brought night racing to Charlotte, Richmond, Bristol, and Texas. The job at the 2.5-mile trioval at Daytona is believed to be the largest lighting project ever for any sports facility in the world.
Learned a lot with each of the projects we've done, and I'm glad we have those years of experience before we take this on, because there's just, for example, the backstretch at Charlotte, our lights are 50 feet from the white line going down the backstretch. Here they're going to be about 300 feet from the white line, and so that adds a whole new dimension of how you try to get light out there and keep it controlled.
And to put this massive lighting project into perspective, if you were to stretch the lights out, they would go for 24,000 city blocks, enough to stretch from Daytona to Musco's headquarters in Iowa. One of the benefits of lights at Daytona in July will be the relief from the extreme heat the team suffered at Daytona last week. Just about everyone we spoke with at Daytona concerning the lights is in favor of the change.
Obviously, it'll be cooler during the race, but my concern is that now the crew will be out here all day long, and that'll put more wear and tear on them than what we got right now.
Pretty hot here in Daytona all the time, and I think it's going to be a lot better for the fans, a lot better for the drivers. It'll be a really cool race, and next year it's going to be a hell of a celebration. A lot of I hear the largest fireworks display in Central Florida. It's going to be incredible, so I can't wait for it.
So now if someone asks you who won the last daytime Pepsi 400, you'll know the answer, John Andretti. Who will win the first nighttime Pepsi 400? Chances are a couple of 100,000 Cooler fans will be on hand next July 4th to find out.
Well, folks, that's all the time we have for this show. We hope you enjoyed it. Our thanks to Crew Chief Ray Evernham and all the folks here at the DuPont Racing Team for allowing us to show you around their shops. You join us again here on TNN for more on Inside NASCAR.
Inside NASCAR has been brought to you by Milwaukee's Best. When you're looking for a different breed of beer, unleash the beast. Milwaukee's Best. Drivers, race teams, and race fans. The 1997 Simpson Race Products catalog is now available, featuring all the new products and services for 97, plus Simpson's complete line of racer and fan gear. To get your copy, call 1-800-71-RACIN and join Team Simpson today. The official vans of Inside NASCAR are Gladiator, built by Glovell, the official van conversion company of NASCAR. Call 800-445-2825 for a dealer near you. Communications provided by Racing Radios, the two-way radio provider of the NASCAR Winston Cup Series, the Busch Grand National Series, and the Craftsman Truck Series.